To be honest, I was a little bit of an animal in the drink. I was never an alcoholic. I just had a problem with excessive drinking. When I found boxing, that was my new vibe, and that allowed us to then stop drinking. And it was just that one little switch I needed, and never looked back, never touched a drop of alcohol. I've come from a travelling background. I come out at a young age. I was kind of forced out. It wasn't out of choice. And it's not really something that's kind of accepted within that community. And I lost my car, I lost my job. I wasn't living at home. And at that point, that's when I kind of took drinking as a way to mask the way that I felt. I didn't feel comfortable in my own body. I wasn't open with my emotions. I didn't know how to deal with it. So I just used drink and drugs as a way to feel numb. If there's a problem, just face it head on, have a conversation. It might be something really small, but it feels big in your head. But as soon as you've had that conversation and a little bit of a release, right, okay, that's actually not as bad as what I thought it was. Don't be ashamed, don't feel like you're weak.
So how's everything going anyway?
Just training hard, fighting in a couple of weeks.
And what's this camp been like compared to all the others?
Quick. I feel like I've blinked and it's gone. But it's been good. I've had a busy year, so just excited to get back out in the second and hopefully another explosive win.
Brilliant. Yeah, so you said obviously last year you there was a bit of a low point. You had all sorts going on, baby, everything else. Can you explain that to everyone? What happened?
Yeah, so to be honest, I kind of rushed into the second fight. I got a bit greedy. It was only, I think, 3-4 weeks after I made my pro debut. And I just thought, I just wanted to be active, take it. I was treating it a little bit like the amateurs, because I was that used to fighting. I had 24 fights in 20 months as an amateur, so I just wanted to be busy. And because I'd waited so long because of the COVID period, I got a bit ahead of myself. Obviously, I totally underestimated parenthood, the lack of sleep. I didn't have a nutritionist at the time. I was working 3 jobs, including boxing. So it just got a bit much, and bad performance, bad night in the office, no excuses, but push forward.
You said this is your 5th fight this year, 2nd of December.
Yeah, 5th fight this year. I set myself a target in January to have 4 fights. I'm on my 5th. I've got an amazing nutritionist on board, Pete Bell. He's literally a magician. He knows his shit. He's done all my fight camps this year. And just, you feel completely different when you're in the ring. I wasn't fueling my body right, and somebody told us, if you don't put fuel in a car, you run on an empty, treat your body the same. So since then, I've done that. And even just when I'm training, I feel completely different. My physique, everything. So everything's just clicked together nice.
How does he get you cutting weight but still eating loads of good food? Is he getting you on certain meals per day at certain times? Is it?
Yeah, so I send him my training schedule. He knows what that is, and he does a plan around me and what I'm kind of exerting.
What does the week look like?
So I've got 3 set days. It's a low, medium, and high day depending on what I'm training. A low day is example if I'm on a rest day. Medium if it's a little bit not more intense, or if I'm sparring then I'm on a high day. And it's different type of foods, but he puts things in what I like. I'm not then getting the cravings. So for me, a salted caramel grenade bar, come to us. Do you know what I'm saying? I've got a full tub of ice cream on a high day. It's unreal. So I'm going to bed and I'm not feeling hungry.
What ice cream is it? Is it the Halo top?
Well, I get the snidey version from Aldi because it's not as expensive. But it tastes the same, salted caramel.
What's it called?
Don't
even know.
Don't know the name of it. It just tastes great.
I spoke with Lucas Ballingall, and he said that one of his nice treats, he gets, I think, 2 rice cakes, and then he puts the ice cream in it and everything else. It's only 200 calories. How it works per ice cream sandwich.
Yeah. Well,
so
that full
you
tub
trick
is
your brain.
Yeah, it's 320 calories for the full tub, but you feel like you're on a proper binge.
And there's quite a bit of protein in them as well, isn't there? It's 10 grams.
Yeah, I think on that one there's 20 grams, I'm sure.
Wow.
But I get me steak on a low day. I'll get me me chicken, me avocado. I love stuff like that.
How low is the low day?
How
many calories?
I think for this fight camp it's 15 something. So just short of 1,600 calories. So when I'm resting, it's not bad when I'm not doing anything.
That's so good.
Still feel good, but a low day is actually, although it's the least calories of the 3, it's the one I prefer the most.
Yeah, and you've been so active, obviously, that it's not like you're ballooning up in between camps. And
Nah. I try to keep it as best as I can. I mean, some of my fights, for the ones in July, there was 13 days between the fights. I had one little cheat meal as a bit of a treat and straight back on the plan.
What's your cheat meal usually?
Domino's.
Yeah?
Domino's.
Yeah, what, meat feast?
No, pepperoni. Pepperoni with extra tomato base.
Nice. So you're a late starter in boxing. What got you into boxing at a late start, and how was it walking in the gym the first time?
It was a friend, actually, because to be honest, I was on a bit of a bad path with drinking, just being a little bit of an idiot, fighting, scrapping on the street. And she was like, come and give it a go. I think you'll like it. But at the time I was due to get married. So I was like, I can't really commit to the sessions. And I'm
not those type of sessions.
Well, yeah, exactly. I'm an all or nothing type of gal. Mm-hmm. So I waited until I got married. She'd asked again. And I thought, let's go. I'll just go to the fitness session, see what it's about. And it was like someone injected something into my veins, never looked back, and here we are. How
was that session when you walked in, the process of it? You're seeing everyone warm up.
It was a little bit daunting, you know, because I'd only ever been in a boxing gym before when it was like where my brother used to box, because they both box as an amateur, and they're younger than me. So other than that, I'd never stepped foot for like me to train before. It was just to watch them.
What were the feelings like on the day of when you're going in?
I mean, my arse was going a little bit, and I'm not even scrapping at this point. But no, it was good. Once I got in there, I was settled. I was enjoying it. Like, I knew straight away, just from that one session, that I can do this. I'm committed to this, and I wanted to give it a go.
What club was that?
Lambton Street in Sunderland.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the head coach coming up to us and pulling us aside, and he said to us, "Have you done this before?" And I went, No. Just watch my brother's box. I've just got like that fighter's kind of instinct.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I knew I potentially had something.
And how long did it take from when you stepped foot in to your first fight?
Not long, to be honest. It was just kind of about getting the weight down to where we wanted to be, because I'd never really been in the gym before, never went for a run before. I was binging, so I was a little bit heavy, a little bit tubby. How
much weight did you have to lose?
I think it was 11 kilogram I lost in total, but that was I'd been in the gym, I think it was 5 months, and then I had my first fight on the 3rd of May 2018.
Kilo a month consistently, that's really good.
So 5 months, lost 11 kg, got down to 64.
How was that first fight?
Unreal, you know, like the adrenaline, everyone there, like screaming, shouting your name. And from that first fight, I got me nicknamed the Russian Robot, because I just come forward. There was no stopping. But yeah, it was good vibes.
So the atmosphere of that night, was it a home show?
Home show, yeah.
How did you handle all the adrenaline of it? Obviously, there's nothing like it, really. Maybe if you're taking MDMA every day, you might get there. But like, how was that rush and everything? Like, can you imagine? Can you still remember now the warm up and everyone screaming?
Yeah, like because I was actually top of the bill as well.
Oh wow! Okay.
So it was a little bit daunting. But it was just an unreal experience. Like the excitement and the adrenaline, like the unknown, because I didn't really know much about. This girl that I was actually fighting with, was her amateur debut as well. So I was like, we don't really know much about each other. But as soon as my song come on, as soon as the crowd went wild,
song?
Freed from Desire, every single time, every single fight. There might sometimes be a little bit of a mix, a little bit of an intro of something else, but then it's always booming into Freed from Desire. Just gets the crowd going.
Yeah.
So yeah, as soon as I got in the ring, I was just like, this is it. This is my time.
After that, obviously you soon realised that boxing's a lot harder when you're just going toe to toe and you are throwing straight shots, the fitness. How did you suddenly adapt from that to going to intermediate and advanced, having 24 fights in 20 months?
Yeah. To be honest, everything progressed quite quick because I was putting the work in, even though at the time I had like a full-time job. I was still making sure I made the sessions. I was getting out for me runs. I was doing the extra little bits of 1% that like is kind of needed to try and get ahead of the game. So to be honest, after my second fight, I was in Haringey Box Cup. So I was thrown in the deep end, but that's the way that I liked it. I'm in against good girls that have been in the sport 10 plus years, but I loved it.
How'd that go, Haringey?
The first Haringey one, I was unsuccessful. I actually come up against a teammate, unfortunately, in the draw, because there was two of us in at the same weight. Lost on a split decision, but then it never stopped us, so I knew we'd come back, and I went back the next year and I won gold. And I was in the class above.
Wow. So what? So within a couple of years, you got gold at Haringey?
Yeah.
That's impressive. And going from, obviously, your amateurs all the way through, what was the main consistent? Obviously, you said you quit your job at some point as well, right? What was you doing 9 to 5?
So I was working for a company, an assessment centre in Newcastle. I had my own team. I was a manager, but it just got like, it just wasn't for me. The vibe of people weren't for me. I was in a little bit of a rut. Obviously, I got to a position where I wanted to kind of be really serious about boxing. So I took up doing a PT course. It was like a year course. I took annual leave, attended things that I need, like the sessions that I needed to attend. And as soon as I got my qualification for that, then I just decided to leave. I thought, this isn't for me. I'm not happy. Why am I going to stay in a job that I'm not happy? And it's not what I wanted to do long term. So it was great pay, great benefits I got with the company, but the people weren't for me, and it just wasn't a nice surrounding to be in. So I thought, fuck this, I'm away.
Did your boxing completely change when you finally committed to personal training and being in the gym full time?
Yeah, it was a different vibe. Like, I'm a very active person. I didn't want to be sat at a desk Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. Like, that's just not me. I'm out there. I'm constantly on the go. So the PT world was exactly what I was kind of destined to be around. Being in a gym or being in my own little space where I've got my own little vibe and that, and bring people in. And because the gym for me saved us, boxing saved me. So like, I knew what it could do then to someone else. So for me to be able to give that back, it was a nice feeling.
What point did you think, I'm going to go pro?
COVID hit, and to be honest, I would have stayed amateur a little bit longer. There was things I would have liked to have ticked off. I mean, just before we went into national lockdown, I was a day off weighing in for the championships, the obviously biggest competition in this country. Mm-hmm. So it was absolute sick. I'd made that weight, like right the way down, and then obviously that happened, and it was so up and down. We didn't know when it was going to end. And I was like, do I wait for this? Do we know when the end of COVID's going to be? Do we know when we're going to get out of lockdown? Like, or maybe 6 months into it, there was an opportunity to kind of turn pro and like get used to the pro game. So I was like, I weighed up the pros and cons, and I was like, what have I got to lose? I'm not getting any younger. What am I technically going to achieve if I was to say win the championships? Am I going to be any higher thought of? Probably not. It's not like I'm going to get onto Team JB. My time's gone. I'm too old. So I turned pro. Thought I can get used to the game, study the game, and if there's any time to do it, it's now, because female boxing's on the rise.
Did you study the game during lockdown? Was you active?
Absolutely. I never stopped training once. Like, I know some gyms, like, they weren't open, but then as a pro, you could actually train. Mm-hmm. So we were getting the sessions done. We were outside doing sessions when it's snowing. Still getting me runs in. I've got my little gym. I was getting my sessions in then. Just grinding away, because I knew my time was going to come.
And did you say you signed here in this gym, right? So you were straight away with this coach?
Yeah, so had a little session with Nick, and I just knew straight away. I was like, yeah, this is my vibe. I felt free. I could like kind of be the style that I wanted to be, and straight away picked up on stuff. And he talks you through it. He doesn't just let you like blast out things. Like he'll talk you through the minor detail and make you understand why you're doing this movement, or why you're throwing that shot after this. So
can you explain a little something maybe that he would teach? Maybe why to move off after a 1-2, or
yeah. So like on the pads and stuff, I was used to kind of doing like blaster pads, like fitness style. And he like just small movements. Something, for example, when I'm throwing the 1-2, like the correct movement of your hips and your shoulders coming all the way through, not just like half shots, like just generating that little bit extra power, because that's what the pros is about. It's not just these little tappy in and out. Like you want that one shot to hurt. So just that small little movement, and how much different it can feel than when you're throwing it. Mm-hmm. So you'll stop and slow it down, and no, you need more twist in the hips. No, you need more twist in the shoulder. So just slowing everything down. I felt like I started from scratch, because with the COVID period, I hadn't been in a boxing gym for, I don't know how long. I felt like Bambi on ice when I first come in here. I felt like I had to start from scratch. My footwork was all over the shop. So
that was probably better though. Instead of you having the amateur mindset of sort of tap and move, you probably actually managed to just listen from the start with a fresh start. Yeah.
It was good. Like, obviously, first looking back, I see he took videos on the first session. I was like, wow, what was my feet doing? It was like there was ice underneath us, but it's good to see how much we've progressed in just a short space of time. So, yeah, right decision. And I love the vibe of the gym.
And who was your idols when you were sort of about to go pro? Is there anyone you were watching on the telly, or you like, I fancy a bit of that? Was there any styles maybe that you were sort of watching, soaking in, obviously doing your research?
Yeah, I watched Katie like before I even got into amateur boxing, so she's always been like a big vibe and inspiration, to be honest, to get into the gym as well and have a little bit of that, because obviously I love to scrap on the streets, but I just wasn't in the gym. So and I would say for lads, like someone I'd study footwork wise and movement is Lomachenko. I love his stuff, watch his videos on YouTube all the time.
Well, all of his Olympic stuff as well.
Just like his training, the ladder work he used to do, things like that. And there was certain things then I was bringing into my training to try and get that footwork better, because for me, that was the number one priority, getting my feet right before then I throw my shots. And like his dad made him do dancing for how long before he let him get in the boxing gym. So that's why he's got such good movement. So just little things like that.
I love you said about Lomachenko. There's so many people that don't like him for the losses and everything else. They don't understand that he's a once in a lifetime type of fighter, him and Usyk.
Unbelievable.
What they do.
They're both unbelievable. The movement, they're there and they're not. Like, imagine being in the ring with them, they frustrate you.
Yeah. Well, and the pressure they put on you about throwing a punch, they're not wasting any energy, but they're in your face and you can't hit them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what footwork drills were you doing? Because he does a lot of unorthodox stuff. He does like juggling. He does like...
I've seen things like that, yeah. And then like, to be honest, there was things where we were using tennis balls where you've got to think. So after you've done a hard session, you're doing something afterwards where you've got to like switch your brain on and think. Certain little drills, little activities. But mainly I was doing a lot of ladder work. And just like practicing stuff, like just drills. I try and drill it for like half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour, just straight of doing the one thing. So like, right, okay, that's click now. But I'd do it over and over again until I did get that click. But yeah, a lot of work, speed work, just to get things like moving.
Nice. And you said boxing saved you. So what was the reasons before boxing that were going wrong in your life? What were you getting up to besides the scraps?
Just, to be honest, I was a little bit of an animal in the drink. I was never an alcoholic. I just had a problem with excessive drinking. I didn't know when to stop. And I did used to take a lot of illegal substances on the back of alcohol, because that's the next best thing, the next best buzz. But I was using it as a way to kind of switch off and not deal with anything from my past. So I was just a little bit of an animal. So when I found boxing, that was my new vibe, and that allowed us to then stop drinking, because I kept making the same mistake over and over again. And it got to a point where I quite easily could have lost my wife and my house, my friends, my family. And it was just that one little switch I needed, and never looked back, never touched a drop of alcohol as of the 28th of January next year. So
congratulations.
5 years.
Wow. So you said about some tough times. Can you talk about any of those things, or do you not want to go into that?
No, look, I'm happy to be open and free. Like, it's not something I do kind of keep my cards close to my chest, but I just think I'm at a point in my life now where I'm happy and I'm comfortable talking about things, because it helps sometimes just having a conversation with someone. It's like someone's then lifted a weight off your shoulders. So
I get that.
Just to kind of give you a bit of background from me and where I've come from. I've come from a travelling background. I come out at a young age. I was kind of forced out. It wasn't out of choice. And it's not really something that's kind of accepted within that community. So I was kind of moving about where I was living. My grandma and granddad took us in, and I was living there for a period of time. At that point, when they took us in, I lost my car, I lost my job, I wasn't living at home, I didn't have a pot of piss in. My grandma was giving us a bit 20 quid here, there and everywhere, so you can still go out, do your little bits, like meet with your friends and stuff. And at that point, that's when I kind of took drinking as a way to mask the way that I felt, because I didn't feel comfortable in my own body. I lost a lot of confidence. And it was the acceptance side. I thought, kind of, do I have to be someone I'm not here? Can I actually be with a woman? Do I have to pretend for the rest of my life and be with a man? And it was just a tough time, but because I wasn't open with my emotions, I kind of inclined with my emotions, should I say, I didn't know how to deal with it. So I just used drink and drugs as a way to feel numb and mask it. And that's what led to the excessive drinking. Had a bad day, go home, open a bottle of Prosecco. I've just did a bottle of Prosecco off. That's later into life, I mean. So because I never kind of dealt with it properly then, that's what then led to things leading down the line.
Before we go any further in the podcast, I would just like to thank the proud sponsors of Not Just Boxing. Not Just Boxing is proudly sponsored by Titan Boxing. Titan Boxing is a UK fast-growing boxing business. They do personalised gloves, pads, T-shirts, everything. They've got UK free shipping. Go check them out with the link on screen. Gymfluencers.com are proud sponsors of Not Just Boxing. They are the premier health and fitness website. There you can find supplement discount codes, freebies, giveaways, a macro calculator. There's all sorts on there. So go check them out at gymfluencers.com or check out their on Instagram at gymfluencers.official. So did you not really feel like you fit in anywhere at some points? And did you realise at the time that you were escaping certain things, or was it just normal? Was you just sort of go, reacting on emotions all the time?
Yeah, well, to be honest, at that present moment in time, people probably didn't know there was anything going on inside my head because I hid it very well. I just cracked on. But there was a lot of demons because I didn't know. I didn't know what to do or how to deal with it. And I remember there was one point we were at someone's house and it was like a roof, a loft style. And there was a window and it was quite easy to access the roof. I could just jump out. And I, honestly, at that moment of time, it went through my head. I thought I could just quite easily like get out this window now and jump off the roof. But I didn't. I'm pleased I didn't. But that's the reality of where I was in my head. But I just didn't know or how to speak to anyone about how I was feeling. Because it was like, is this just a phase? Like, am I meant to be this person? I don't know. It was tough. And then it was not long after that period when I felt like that I actually met Amy. And she accepted us and wanted us in a time where I didn't have anything. I was a nobody. So I knew that it was going to be something special. So from that point, like, we built on things. We've built a little empire. We've been together 9 years, married 5 years. We've got a little baby girl now. We've got a lovely home, two decent cars. Do you know what I mean? So like we've built it up from the scratch. But because I never dealt with the head on there, that's when then things started to still come out, and I was still using alcohol as a way to like mask the way that I felt. So at one point I did get a little bit of help as well. I got a little bit of counselling to try and understand, hang on a second, what's going on here? Like, what's going on with my brain? And when I started talking about stuff more, that's when I was able to have a little bit more release and understanding of, right, this is who I am and this is who I want to be. So to be honest, the best thing I ever did was stop drinking. I had to stop drinking. I couldn't do it because I probably would have A, ended up in jail, or B, ended up in hospital, seriously hurt. So that's kind of the reality, the backstory. And
what would your advice be to anyone that is going through similar things, have experienced those thoughts? Would you say maybe go speak up, find counselling, find a close friend? 100%,
because I was always ashamed. This is the first time I've publicly spoke about this, and what I've just said, the only person that ever knows the deepness of how I felt back in that time is my wife. But I'm at a stage now in my life where I think, no, like, people actually do commit suicide because of their thoughts and how they feel, because they feel like they've got no one, and there's always somebody to talk to. It's just trying to reach out to someone. And the best thing I ever did through the years, even since stop drinking, is if there's a problem, just face it head on, have a conversation. It might be something really small, but it feels big in your head. But as soon as you've had that conversation and a little bit of a release, right, okay, that's actually not as bad as what I thought it was. So yeah, it's just like, don't be ashamed. Like, if you need to speak or you're feeling a certain type of way, like, don't feel like you're weak, because I felt like I was weak. Still to this day, like, I have to try and tell myself, no, like, you're a strong person. You're allowed to cry. You're allowed to get emotional. But I've never been that type of person. And I see myself as being weak when I cry. But I know that's not the case. I give other people the best advice and say, no, you've got my shoulder. But I don't give myself that advice back. So I'm like, but I'm still learning. But I'm a lot more open now to what I used to be.
Just treating yourself how you would treat a friend.
Yeah.
In your inner dialogue, when you are being nasty to yourself and things aren't going well, that is probably the worst thing you can do, right? So, like you said, treating yourself like a friend, it must feel so much nicer. You're probably still working on it now, right? Are you having good and bad days? So.
Yeah, 100%. And like, even still, sometimes Amy's got to drag it out of her. She knows when there's something on my mind or when there's something wrong. She's like, what's wrong? She gives us the eyes, and I'm like, right, okay, I'll tell you. But like, when I first met her, like, I genuinely was a closed book. It was like cemented. You had to wedge that open, and it was very hard to even get anything out of us. But that's because I just brushed everything under the carpet. That's just the kind of background I've come from. Like, it's okay. You don't talk about your emotions. You just crack on. That's the life. But I've realised as the years have got on, it's actually okay not to be okay and have a conversation, and show yourself as being a little bit more vulnerable.
Especially being in this sport, sometimes you might feel like you shouldn't be vulnerable because your opponent, they might have an edge over you. So being that open, even when you're a pro boxer, like, and you know what you can be on both sides, it's very mature.
Yeah, because it's a lonely sport as well. So I have found that since stop drinking and doing stupid stuff, that I've got a clear mind. I can think a lot more straight. And that's allowed us to be a little bit more open as well with conversations. And like today, I've just admitted I've had counselling, the background and this, that and the other. Like, that's not something I'd ever do. But I'm in a position in my life where I'm happy to be open. If that's then potentially going to help someone else tell their story, then that's my job done.
And what made you stop drinking? That your last day of drinking? What made you say, you know what, I'm not doing this again?
It was actually my birthday night out, and again, I'd made a divvy of myself, got full of drink, got full of, the bad substances, the bad shit. And it's like, honestly, somebody had just flipped something in my brain to say, nah, this is it now. Because I did keep making the same mistake over and over again. I'd have scraps, I'd treat people like shit, I'd take shit out on Amy because she's the closest person to us. But because I'd drink to make myself feel like kind of numb, to not even know what I was doing. But it was that one time that I woke up and I was like, nah, I'm ready now. I'd been locked up and everything, and that still wasn't enough to make us stop. I've been put in hospital before, not because of my doing. I got knocked out by a lad. I was in drink that night, but the drink actually saved my life that night, they said, because my head had hit the curb and I was unconscious. I've got a scar down here for life because of that. But for once, I wasn't actually a dick that night. But it was just that one time. I was like, loads of things have happened. There was loads of scenarios which you think you should stop now, Jordan. But it didn't. And because everyone kept saying to us, you need to stop, it made us want to do it even more. Even though in my head, after I'd done a certain thing, I'd be like, yeah, that's it. I'd be filling them full of shit because I knew I was going to drink again. But it was that one time, and I knew it was just like something had took over my body and was like, this is it. And that was it. Never touched a drop since. I won't even eat profiteroles anymore, which are my favourite, because they've got a small percentage of alcohol in.
Really?
Yeah, I take it that serious.
They got booze in them?
They've got a small percentage of alcohol. I think it's rum.
Oh, no.
Or one of them.
Really?
But yeah, won't touch them. And they used to be my favourite at Christmas time.
I love profiteroles.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, no. Is there an equivalent you have now then?
Sticky toffee pudding. That one's nice.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I've got a sweet tooth.
So let's talk about the struggles of boxing. Before we talk about all the good things that you've already had in your career, what are the hard parts? Obviously, you're still working as a PT. You're taking a lot of stress. You're not signed by people. Can you go into what your week looks like around not just boxing, about to fight someone, you're dealing with everything else?
Yeah. I mean, it is tough when you're still trying to work. The beginning of the year, I made a decision to leave me part-time job because I had a part-time job on top of the PT because coming from the manager's position, it was too much of a drop down in money to take the risk to just go self-employed. But then I was doing too much trying to fit that in, the PTs and boxing. So I left there the beginning of the year, so I just do my PTs and classes now, so it fits in around my schedule, so I can do my boxing and then the PTs fit around that. But it is tough. I'm not in a position where I'm financially getting paid for fights. I'm pulling out my own pocket. I'm purely relying on sponsorship, and sometimes it is tough because it feels like you're always on the want when you're posting, is there any companies that want to help us out, this, that and the other. But I think a lot of people see, oh, you're a professional fighter, you've got an all right home, like you've got a decent car, like you must be making mega money. And that's the complete opposite. I'm lucky with my business, with the PTs and classes, if I make £8,000 a year, I'm lucky if I scrape that. But that's because I made that decision. I had the chat with my wife. We sat down, we worked out the logistics, and I said, yeah, it's a risk I'm willing to take by leaving my part-time job and invest in myself, because I know better times are going to come. So I always said this year's short-term pain, long-term gain, but we'll get there. I'm not chasing the money, but it would be nice to obviously get paid for what you do. But I know that'll come. So whether that's by getting signed by a promotional company or something, but yeah, everything I do at the minute, it's just purely reliant on obviously the work that I do and then the sponsorship to be able to do it, because opponents aren't cheap. The flights, traveling, this, that and the other, traveling for sparring, you're training.
To fight one person, how much money goes into that? Obviously, you're paying your opponent, you have to sell a certain amount of tickets. How much stress are you having with that on top of training to beat them and trying to improve your craft?
It's, I mean, dependent on the level of opponent, but you could be looking at, when you're starting off, at between 2 and 3K that you've got to find straight away just to cover the opponent's corner. So that in itself, I mean, my sponsorship deals aren't even that for a 12-month period. So like that's just for one fight, and I'm on my 5th fight this year. So it's been tough. It's really tough. And then on the top of that, like obviously trying to sell tickets and train and work and be a mum. But it's just the reality of what I do, because I love it. And like I say, boxing saved my life. So I'm literally chucking myself in it 100%.
So how much have you improved since you sacked in the part-time job and you've had this whole year? Obviously, you've been so active. Have you seen the improvement so much in your craft?
100%. Even just being with Nick, like it's just them small little things. Like you can feel it with the nutrition's probably is the biggest part of it as well, because I'm fueling my body right at the right times. I'm getting the right supplements in my body for when I need them, before and after training. So Pete has been an absolute genius this year, and I trust him 100%. And then everything else as well, the strength and conditioning coach, me actual boxing coach, like just everything fits together really nice. And yeah, I've tapered down like work-wise by leaving the part-time job, but I still get the one-to-ones in, I still get the classes, but it's just minimal, because I've chucked myself into boxing, and hopefully at some point, if it's next year or the year after, then I can just do boxing full-time. As long as the bills are paid, I'm cushy.
Where do you see yourself in 3 years' time?
World champion. I want a strap around my waist. 3 years I think is a good time. Like, obviously I know who's at the top is very elite level and classy. But I'm a quick learner. Look what I've done in the space of time. I've been amateur and pro sometime that in the amount of time people have just been pro. So
yeah, it sounds like you've really fast-tracked your career, and there's so many world champions out there that have done the exact same thing.
Yeah.
It's where you've already seen the path being taken by Lawrence Okoli, I think, started at 18.
Yeah.
He started at 18. He was still working in McDonald's, I believe. And obviously he's world champ now. He's had all of that. So there's a lot of inspiration out there to show why not.
Yeah.
And we said off air how women peak a bit later than men as well. Like you've still got probably 4 or 5 years until you're going to be at your best anyway.
Oh, 100%. I've got so much more in the tank, and I've got so much more to learn. Like I always set myself this year as being a learning year, and that's exactly what I've done. I haven't sidetracked from that. I know next year there's going to be big opportunities to fight unbeaten girls, and I'm going to take it with both hands if them opportunities come. But yeah, just excited.
Well, it's been a pleasure having you on, and I'm looking forward to December the 2nd. Is there a link, any sponsors you want to say? Is there any links you want to tell anyone? Just
a massive, it's going to be live on YouTube. It might not be, I don't think personally I'll be on the live stream on TV for Channel 5 because they usually just have a couple of fights on, but it'll be, the full undercard will be live streamed on YouTube. All links will be put on my social media, and just a massive thank you to my sponsors, because I genuinely wouldn't be in the position I am or where I am without their help and support. So massive thank you to them all.
Brilliant. Well, all the best, and I'll catch you soon.
Thank you very much.